Good evening, everyone. This is Leona, and today I'm going to touch on the EFT and the more technical parts of how EFT works and what you can use it for. Before I go into this discussion about EFT part, I would like to answer a few questions that were asked. One of the questions was that can EFT work for physical ailments? The answer is yes, EFT can work for these things. For physical parts, you've got to do EFT for a longer time because you've got to remove the block from the physical body part. It takes a certain amount of time for the thought to reach the body. And if it's already reached the body, that means the block is quite deep. So you've got to work with yourself for at least a month to 3 months, depending on what the issue is. So yes, EFT can work for the physical problems, for the pains or some sort of a physical breakdown. Could also be a disease that you are dealing with right now. And doing EFT will facilitate faster healing and faster growth. So another question that was asked was, what is the reason for these tappings and what is there a meaning to these points? Yes, there's a meaning to the points that we are tapping on. For example, we tap on the side of the palm first, and we call this the karate chop. Now, a lot of nerve endings are over here, and the main associations of the karate point is the ability to move forward, and it's also healing from grief. So just tapping on this point is facilitating this healing process. And also it has got to do with the small intestines, and it releases sorrow, feelings of being vulnerable, being obsessed with certain behaviors or thought patterns. So it releases obsessive compulsive thought patterns. Now, metaphorically, also, the karate point is like a breaking point. In karate, taekwondo, we use this part to break. So when we start tapping on this point in EFT, it's telling the subconscious mind that I'm breaking this pattern now. I'm breaking this thought pattern, this behavior, this problem now. It's enough. And I'm starting a different pattern, a more empowering pattern. So it's like a subconscious message that we are sending to our mind that we are breaking this pattern. Another point is the top of the head. As I've mentioned in my first video, the top of the head is not tapped when we are starting EFT. The top of the head is tapped only in the end when we come to a 1 score or a 0 score. It's a very sensitive point. And especially we do not tap negative things on the top of the head. So what is the top of the head to do with? It is our connection, the spiritual connection, the portal. So it's to do with intuition, focus, insights, the spiritual discernment, clarity, wisdom. So it releases this, there are some people who are the forever critics of themselves. So just tapping on this point releases this tendency to be an inner critic and also to get focus in life, on your life plan, on your path. This is also called as the 100 meeting points meridian. So it's a very powerful point, and that's why we tap really positive things, positive affirmations on this point. Then is the inner eyebrow. Now, the inner eyebrow, the associations is to bring peace, emotional healing, and tapping on this point releases traumas, hurt, sadness, frustration, impatience, and a sense of dread. And these are very common feelings that we have right now with the current COVID situation, especially dread, because we have no idea what's going to happen next and what's the big next problem that's going to come up, probably. So, yeah, tapping on the inner eyebrow helps. The side of the eyes, the keywords is mainly clarity and compassion. And tapping on these points releases rage, anger, resentment, fear, especially fear of change, and a muddled thinking pattern. The next is the under the eyes. The under the eyes is basically to do with contentment and calmness. And it also helps with working with stomach issues that you may have. So it releases a lot of fear, anxiety, a feeling of emptiness, nervousness, and disappointment. Now, if you remember, the next point is under the nose. So this point is to do with self-acceptance, self-empowerment, compassion for the self and also for others. And tapping on this point releases embarrassment, powerlessness, shame, guilt, grief, fear of being made fun of, fear of failure. How many times we don't even do something because there is that imminent feeling that I'm either way is going to fail. So what's the point? So yeah, tapping on this point is releasing these feelings. The next point is here, the chin point, and it's to do with clarity, certainty, confidence, and self acceptance. And it releases confusion, uncertainty, shame, embarrassment, and the tendency to second guess yourself all the time. Then comes the collar point, the collarbone point, and this is to do with a sense of moving forward, confidence, and clarity again. And tapping on this point releases this feeling of being stuck, feelings of indecision, not able to take a decision, worry, and just general stress. Under the arms is to do with clarity, confidence, and relaxation. And also, again, like under the nose, the compassion for the self and others is stimulated when you tap here. It releases poor self esteem, guilt, worry, obsessing, hopelessness, and insecurity. So, yes, the points have a link, and there is a reason why we are tapping on these points. So, knowing it helps, but even if you don't know, just tapping, it does what it's supposed to do. Another question that was asked was, what is like, how does EFT actually work? What is the logic behind it? Now, for me, EFT is a great technique because it brings about a huge awareness and a sense of responsibility in the people that I work with. Because without awareness, there's no change and there's no going forward. So, how does that happen? Now, if I ask you, do thoughts come first or emotions come first? And most people tend to say the emotions come first. And that is because emotionally, when we are in emotional pain, it just takes over everything. We are only aware of the pain and we think the emotions come first. But according to how I look and how I work, it's the thoughts which come first. So there is the thought, followed by the emotion, followed by the energy body, and finally the physical body. So the thoughts eventually affect the physical body and even the environment around us. So what we attract, what we manifest for ourselves is directly linked to our thinking and our belief systems. So let me give you an example. Um, the knees. Suppose someone is walking on the road and they fall down and the knees are damaged or any other part of the body is damaged. I usually ask, where did you get hurt? Where did you hit? And say the knees got hurt. Then my next question to this client of mine would be, are you resisting change? Because the knees are to do with change. And their usual reaction is, wow, how did you know? I can tell you very simply, anyone can know this. You can learn and understand what part of the body is associated with it, with what emotion. So EFT, how EFT works is, it works at the thought level because we are understanding the belief system that is causing the problem. We are working with the emotions directly. As the name suggests, emotional freedom technique. We are affecting the energy body. Tapping on these points is shifting the energy. It's repositioning the energy body. And we are also working with the physical body. So if you have a physical pain, you're working directly with the physical body. But just tapping on these points is working with the physical body. These points are also linked with the lymphatic drainage points. So we are cleaning the body of all these unwanted belief system patterns and emotions. So yeah, this is how EFT works. Now, let's look at the EFT recipe. So someone wrote me and said that, oh, your EFT is different from how I learned and how others are practicing it on YouTube. Yes, it is different. This is EFT with a little bit of Leona sense. I have added some stuff to this, like, and not changed the recipe at all, but just put in a little bit of different things in it, which are already part of EFT. Like, for example, eye movements are part of EFT. I've just added a few more eye movements than the ones which are already in EFT. Because my belief is that the sooner my client is out of therapy and living their life, the better it is. I can work with someone else rather than working with the same client for years and years, and it doesn't make sense. So, what I did was I integrated a lot of things that I had learned with my experience and over the years into the original EFT recipe. So, yes, it's different. As I explained to you, the shorter version and the longer version in a bit, I will also say which parts have been specifically included. Okay? So let's look at the shorter version. Say you do not have time, or you are traveling, or you are in a public place. Then doing the full EFT with all the weird tappings is probably not practical, and you don't want to get attention to yourself. So and you have time, so you want to do EFT, then you can do the shorter version. The shorter version is very simple. All that you've got to do is start with rubbing or tapping, and you can do it very discreetly, even if you're standing for the bus or in the metro, very discreetly. You don't have to rub, um, obviously, make it subtle, and repeat 3 times what the problem is. Of course, start with the score. as always, the SUD score, and then repeat 3 times the statement. From the first video, you will know, even though I am feeling da da da, even though this is what is happening with me, whatever it is, say it 3 times. I still choose to heal and integrate that part of me. Repeat this sentence 3 times. And then place your hands one over the other. If you're in public and you cannot do this, then just put one hand, and that's okay. And take 7 deep breaths. If you cannot place your hands also, just breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. 7 times, one round is complete. And you can do as many rounds as you want till you come to a 0 or at least a 1. This is the shorter version. Now, I'm sure you think it's very simple and very easy to do. So let me know once you have done this and how it goes for you. The longer version. Now, the longer version starts with the same process where you find the SUD score, check your SUD score. You can, whatever your score is, you start with it. The second step is you tap or you rub the side of the palm. Okay? And you say what the problem is. Remember, awareness and acknowledging that this is the problem is the key. So you say what you have to say 3 times. Then you start tapping on the inner eyebrow. Now I'm going fast because I'm not doing in a practice in detail. If you look at my first video, you will see how to do and what to say. But yeah, at this point, then you tap in eyebrow, say what is happening with you, side of the eyes, under, hands, and you come back to the side of the palm. Over here, again, say what the problem is. And as you tap on the face, you would start seeing other links associated with what you started with. So you can add that as you're closing the tapping part. Say it once or 3 times. Put your hands down or place them on your chest and take 7 breaths. Yeah, in through the nose, out through the mouth. 7 breathing is done. Then what you do is the eye movements. The eye movements in the original EFT is looking sharply to the right, down, or sharply to the left, and sharply to the left, down, and going clockwise and anti-clockwise, just once. I have done a full course on eye movements, and I know how important the eye movements are with regard to how we store memories in the brain. So I've included some of the eye movements into the original EFT eye movements. So how I do the eye movements is you go 7 times clockwise, 7 times anti-clockwise, 7 times side to side, horizontal, and 7 times right diagonal, and 7 times left diagonal. I find that it's easier to hold something in your hand if you're doing EFT on yourself and just follow this movement with your eyes by keeping your head straight. Or you can use your finger. It's fine. But having a focus point helps to move the eyes in the line, in the pattern mentioned, easier. So yeah, that's the eye movements. Then you hum the happy birthday tune. So I like to put my fingers on the gamut point and say the happy birthday. So the gamut point is the space between the last 2 fingers, and it's like the gap here. So I would just place my fingers here and hum the happy birthday. Some EFT practitioners like to place the fingers hear and do the breathing. Up to you. Sometimes you don't want to place on the gamut and just hum the happy birthday tune. So you hum the happy birthday tune once, something like and then take a sip of water, and that's one full round complete of EFT, the entire EFT recipe, the long version. So you take a sip of water and then you check your score. And you can then go into doing a second round or a third round or a fourth round. So yeah, that's the full recipe of EFT. I have already spoken about how to deal with resistance in my second EFT video. So if you get stuck at any point, do the resistance rounds. Now, yeah, this is pretty easy, pretty cool to do, yeah? And once you start doing with the eyeballs and the eyeball movements, you will see what's actually how everything gets repositioned and realigned, reassociated. Okay, so the last part that I want to touch on for today is my personal EFT practice. I love EFT. I find EFT to do has worked so well for me. And when I learned EFT, I learned from different people. I learned different versions of EFT. And my last EFT course was way back in 2013, in the month of January. And there was this trainer who came from the UK, and I loved her teaching style. Ms. Rangana Rupavi Chaudhary. You can learn from her. She is a very compassionate, dedicated teacher. So after when I done this last course of EFT, the full courses with her, in fact, advanced also, I said, okay, let me see how I can integrate this practice into my life. And I love the full concept of walk the talk because that's very important for me. So I was doing some research and I found this Australian EFT practitioner who was very successful in his work life, but as a person, he found it difficult to break his patterns. So, what he started doing was just tap on himself every day, uh, just 1 or 2 rounds. And he saw like a huge difference in his productivity, in how he spent his free time, like how he would before come home and just lie down on the couch and watch TV like a couch potato. And after he started tapping, he just stopped doing it. He stopped playing the video games and started putting in more time and energy into what the things that were important for him. And not that his life was bad, but it just got beautiful and in a direction that he wanted it to go to with tapping every day. And he did this for a month. So I liked this process very much. So what I started doing was making it like a ritual. I like rituals. So I said, okay, I'm going to do an emotional detox once a year. So I would put in a particular time, and it's usually in the beginning of the year. So I would say 42 days of emotional detox. So just tap for 42 days, once a day, just one round. And I would keep a diary and just write down in the diary what am I tapping for, an emotion or a physical problem or a belief system, or it's something that could have happened or triggered me or made me feel bad. I would just write down what am I tapping for, what is the score, and after one round, what was my score. And I did this the first time in 2013, and I love this ritual. So I, uh, I do this every year. And what I've seen is that even if I've tapped for a particular thing, like for example, maybe on the first day was anger, and it could be at a 10 on 10, but with one round, it would maybe probably come just one score down and be 9. But I stop because just one round is what I've committed to. And then the next day, maybe something else. And the third day could be completely something different. And the fourth day could be anger again. What I started noticing is that even though I did not tap for it to come down to zero, just the awareness that it brought about and the conscious action to resolve it, to change it, the universe supported this goal like 1,000 times. And I started seeing even changes where I thought things were very good, and yeah, things shifted even in those areas. So I continue doing it every year, and it's one of my most favorite rituals that I do with myself. So yeah, what you've got to do is tap for 2 21-day cycles. That's 42 days. Keep a diary and just make a note of what you're tapping for on that day. Do it for 42 days and then do it again the next year. And other times, whenever you need EFT, at that times use EFT as and when needed. So yeah, that's how I like to do my EFT. So I have like whenever I do need it, I will apply that technique. And once a year, I do an emotional detox. So cool. There are two other things that I like to do. So once the final thing for today, and I've done this in the first EFT session that I did here on this platform, is that I like to close my EFT once I've come down to a 1 or a 0 with 2 rounds of self-love affirmations and the forgiveness part, which is Ho'oponopono. So those are again additions, and these I've learned from different books and the courses that I've done, and I love it. So I use these in my EFT rounds too. So with this, I have explained to you everything that is needed to kickstart your own self-healing journey. Especially in these current times, it's so important to make time for yourself, put in time to work with what's coming up for you. Because believe it or not, what you start feeling inside of you is also what you start manifesting in your body and in the environment. Sadness and fear is a big common emotion which is seen with COVID times, and also the feeling of powerlessness. So tap it out, keep tapping. If you get stuck anywhere, which I doubt because it's so simple and easy, write to me and I will definitely answer you. So, wish you all the best. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.